Welcome back. The police video of Tyre Nichols, it sent shockwaves through this country. As someone who couldn't stomach watching all of it herself, you question how many more of these videos have to exist before change happens. But one thing we learned in the pandemic is our future, the young people in our society, are not afraid to be driving forces for change. So how do you talk to them in the classroom about what they're seeing and why they're seeing it so they can change it? It's a question FacingHistory.org already asked and answered. The organization's full name is Facing History and Ourselves. It analyzes how the issues facing our society impact teachers, students, and communities around the country, and it helps teachers to teach them to students. It has a mini lesson it created back in 2019. It's called Teaching in the Wake of Violence. It's meant to guide teachers through discussions after news of a mass shooting, terrorist attack, or other violent events. The lesson says when we don't address the violence in the classroom, we risk normalizing it. Joining us now to discuss the importance of talking to students about Tyre Nichols is Steve Becton. He's the Chief Officer of Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging at Facing History. It's based in Memphis. Steve, because you're based in Memphis, I have to ask what impact this video has had on the Black community and what questions there people still have.
Thanks for having me, Ashley. Yeah, the Black community in Memphis is being active, but also reflective. Unfortunately, the Black community in Memphis has had a lot of experience dealing with injustice. Unfortunately, the Black community in Memphis is sort of always braces itself for things like this happening. What I can say about the Black community is there's resilience here in Memphis. The Black community in Memphis sort of rises to this occasion and really try to push policymakers to make these structural changes. And is led by many young people who are in this community saying that it can be a better place as we all stand up for equity and justice.
Yeah. I want to get to the topic of talking to children in classrooms about this. For any adult talking to a child, is there anything that they should make sure they do or that they should definitely not do when talking to students about something so violent and traumatic?
The important thing to do is to create what we call a reflective classroom at Facing History and Ourselves. And that is a classroom where students feel safe, social and emotionally safe to share their thoughts, their opinions. Also, just to sit with the emotional space, to allow students to reflect, allow students to be in this place of we call identity safety, where they can bring their own stories and their own narratives to it. So the classroom needs to be intentionally constructed in a way where we can have these brave yet safe conversations.
Yeah. And I would imagine you have students from different backgrounds and who have varying exposure to what's going on. So it may be discussed in some households and not others. So when talking to students about this, is it more important to answer their questions, no matter what they may be or how unpredictable they may be, or is it more important for teachers to guide the conversation first?
Great question. The role of a teacher in a Facing History classroom is to facilitate learning. These are learning environments, so we do want to start with rigor. So Facing History teachers do bring in rigorous content, rigorous primary source documents. We don't just ask students to think about how they feel without sort of grounded it in academic rigor. But beyond that, the teacher then facilitates learning. The best learning actually happens not when we indoctrinate kids or tell them what to think, but we give them the tools to think critically. And what's magical is when the learning happens between the students, from students to students. And we're just providing that platform for students to express and to think critically.
And I did notice what we showed people, it was called a mini lesson, and then it also kind of talks about how to incorporate into current events. What is the best way for teachers to incorporate these mini lessons into their lesson plans? Because they do have to plan out every day of their year. They can't dedicate a whole day to this. So how do you incorporate that into things you're already doing?
Absolutely. So teachers, again, find those connections to the content that they're already teaching. For example, if a teacher's teaching American history, we have an amazing resource on the Reconstruction era. Every American history teacher should teach Reconstruction. So we bring in that content, and then we do something that's really unique to Facing History. We ask students to study human behavior. It's called Facing History in Ourselves because it's an examination of choices. What are the choices that people have made historically in those moments in history where democracy was fragile, like in the Reconstruction era? And then we ask students to imagine those choices today, how the things of the past informing our choices today, and with the whole idea, Ashley, of creating a more just and a humane society by learning from the choices that people made in the past.
Steve Beckton, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. We appreciate you.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.